Hi everyone, Emily Gomez here. Today I'd like to show you how I put together this blazer, which is Nyaa-chan from Osomatsu-san's blazer. In part 1 of the video, I'll be showing you how I fitted and adjusted the garment to myself. I'll also be showing you a few techniques on how to modify a base pattern. And to finish off, I'll be showing you how I made the sleeves, which have this beautiful little cuff detail here. If you plan on making any other kind of tailored jacket from any other character, it could also be useful. It's a fairly simple medium project. I'm not sure. Depends on your skills, I suppose. But I hope it's helpful for everyone out there. So good luck with your projects, and that's that. Bye.
To begin with, I will be showing you the pieces I used as the base for my construction. For the bodice, we have the center front with dart and opening for welt pocket, side front, side back, and center back with no kick pleat since I was way too lazy to put one in. The sleeves are made from 2 pattern pieces traditional to tailor jackets with a cuff opening. My first step will be to create a mock-up to test the fit of the garment. I'm gonna start by tracing all of my pieces in muslin fabric. I personally prefer using muslin fabric when doing any kind of mock-ups, mainly due to the rigidity of the fabric. Then I simply cut all of my pieces out and assemble them together. Since this is just a test fit, I won't bother finishing the welt pocket, sleeve cuff, or interfacing any of the pieces. And here it is, our mock-up! To save on time, I often just make half of the mock-up, but you will get more accurate results with a full garment. Now is also the perfect time to make any necessary adjustments to your pattern for a perfect fit. If you look at the drawing, there is a slight difference of color along the hem and the neckline. We'll make these out of 2 different fabrics. To do so, we'll be marking the hem and the neckline on our pattern. Keep in mind this is unrelated to any of the modifications you might have done for fit. They should have been done prior to this step. Notice how I add buried notches to all of my pieces. This allows me to remember which pieces go together when assembling them. Alright, so I will attempt to clarify the next part with the help of my drawing skills. As you can see, all my pieces have been marked with dotted lines. These are the lines we have just drawn for the hem and the neckline. Before cutting them though, we need to trace out our facings. Our facings would look something like this. They overlap our dotted lines by about 2 centimeters. You will need to trace these out on separate sheets. They will be their own pattern and you will simply need to cut them out. To avoid making seams everywhere, you can glue the patterns as indicated by the colored areas. When you do this, make sure to remove the seam allowance first, or else your facing pieces will not match with the rest of your jacket. Now back to original lines. You will need to cut along the lines to get all your pieces. You can attach the colored areas together. Once again, make sure to remove the seam allowance when doing so, or else they won't match together later. Your last step will be to add seam allowance along the areas we just cut. I always use 1 cm seam allowance on all of my pattern pieces, but some people prefer having more, so you go as you please. Once done, all your pattern pieces should look something like this. These are the 2 fabrics I'm using for my jacket. Pin all your pattern pieces to the proper fabric. Make sure to follow the direction of the grain line. Cut everything out. Make sure to cut your notches too. Also, make sure to mark all your punch holes. I use dressmaker's tracing paper for this and a notched wheel. These are my pieces in my combination fabric, which would be the neckline and the hem. To make an extra solid tailored jacket, I suggest interfacing certain areas. All of my hems, necklines, and facing, as well as my center front and side front, are fully interfaced. For my center back, side back, and sleeves, I only interface along the neck, armhole, and the hem. For this, I made separate patterns that I cut out, pinned to the interfacing, and applied. Here's all my pieces ready for sewing. I start assembling my sleeves with the straight and simple side. Starting from where the cuff will fold, I bias tape my seam allowance for a clean finish. You can also overlock if you prefer. If you plan on lining the jacket, then skip this step altogether. Now we start the tricky part. Start by folding your angled piece onto itself. Measure 1 cm or whatever your seam allowance is from the edge and stop your stitch there. On the other side, you will fold where your notch is. If you do not have a notch, then it should be at the level where your cuff folds in. Or whatever your seam allowance is from the edge and stop your stitch there. Next, you'll align the edges of the sleeve. Make sure to align both the sewn points and sew along the edges until you hit those points. If this is done properly, your sleeve cuff should fold without problem. Next, you need to bias tape the other side of your sleeve. You finish off by binding your cuff. To make sure everything stays in place, I added a small stitch on my cuff. And your sleeves are done! Hope everybody enjoyed that. If you liked it, give it a big thumbs up. Also, you can subscribe. I will eventually have a part 2 that will be out explaining how to do the rest of the blazer. Hope you look forward to it, and good luck with all your projects. Bye!